good. Yeah, so there's the meticulous, and there's the transgressive side, or the rules-breaking side. And my impression, and going back to Griff's point, I think it's a similar point would be that he wasn't that knowledgeable. So he was meticulous. He knew that. Maybe he got these cheat sheets in China, and so he knew how to do it. But he didn't feel comfortable to take license with it. So what he could take license with was the Japanese vernacular, where you quote some of the Chinese, but then you fool around with the sounds without, you make the wordplay based on the Japanese pronunciation a lot of times. So in other words, he follows the rules so strictly, partly because he's not as confident to break the rules as he is with some other forms. Good. Okay. We got to go with our, because the dean will get upset if we don't.
Yeah, the graduate students are paying for this.
So we got two more, and then we'll open it up.
This involves a bit of East-West translation, but to what extent can we call Dogen a mystic coming from the Greek word, one who keeps silent, and as noted earlier by Dr. Folk, well, he wasn't very silent. He had a lot of extensive writings, and I mean, you guys could have a field day with just how loaded the term mystic is, but is it applicable? Because some Dogen studies we call him a mystical realist or some derivation.
I don't think we get a lot of mileage out of it, calling him a mystic. But of course, yeah, you'd have to have your definitions lined up. Okay, it's an incredibly ambiguous term, right? So,
well, I think Kim's book, when it first came out in '75, was one of the first.
yeah.
Really the first comprehensive study of Dogen in English, and reissued in around '04 with the subtitle Mystical Realist. And in a way, I guess, we're Shotai, because she gets the credit for the title today, bringing it down, bringing down to earth, which evokes a famous article by Judith Berling, where she talked about not Dogen but other earlier Chan masters bringing the Buddha down to earth. So I think the realist side, mystical realist. Realist meant, Dogen was very concrete, pragmatic, the active presence of the Gyobutsu and that kind of thing.
I had a thought here. I don't think it's mystic. I'm going to say no. When Dogen is talking about seeing things the way they are, he says nothing's hidden. There's like it's not like delusion is this veil. We're going to rip it off and then see face to face what we only saw through the glass darkly. It's a mystical experience, if it's direct experience of the sacred, intuitive. Either whether the sacred being is another or yourself or whatever your Buddha nature. I don't think Dogen was thinking in that way. He's saying, this is it. This is reality. That's not really very mystical. Right? It's like, it's this, nothing else. That's what you were saying. Yeah. I need some backup. I need some credibility.
I agree with what you just said, Griff, but another word that came to mind that is associated with mystic is contemplative, and certainly both the tradition of Christian mystics and Dogen are contemplative in some sense. So in that sense, yeah, there is the turning within that's part of Dogen. It's not the whole of Dogen, but the basic instruction is to take the backward step, turn the light within. Then of course there's the bodhisattva side of expressing it in the world and expressing it in your practice too. But that's a place where they meet.
Okay, Michael.
Okay. I have a question with regards to the belief in sudden versus gradual awakening. Now, is there an element maybe of exclusivism that arises due to this sudden versus gradual awakening debate? And what would Dogen's view on this have been? Would he have been exclusivistic? Is this, as far as drawing a boundary of, who is a Buddhist and who is not a Buddhist? he drawing this so you know, sudden versus gradual? I mean, if someone believes one, well, you're not a Buddhist. If you believe the other, you are. There, you know, where the boundaries lie. Is it something he might have paid attention to, or was it not so important to him?
Well, I don't think sudden and gradual would have translated into who's included, who's excluded. But certainly, those are very, very loaded terms in East Asian Buddhism. And somehow, sudden has sort of the upper hand in the debate. But it's not just sudden, it also sort of implies not partial. In other words, wholly. Things are not divided up into different parts, and you get one part at a time. That would be sort of the gradual. So we think, at least when I hear the English words sudden and gradual, I think in temporal terms. But it's also a question of whether something's divisible or not, whether it's indivisible.
Or all at once. But, you know,
All at once.
okay, we have all these Dogen scholars up here. I can't think of any place where Dogen's really talking about this. Can you? Anyone else? And I do think by the, I don't think so. I mean, everyone is sudden by then. I mean, these debates raged in China in the Tang Dynasty. And by the time in Song Dynasty China, long before Dogen went, that everyone was the father of the sixth patriarch, the sixth ancestor, Huingang, and they were all in the sudden school. That was like taken for granted. But this does come up in modern polemics.
Yeah.
Okay? And here's how it comes up. The Rinzai people and the Soto people call each other gradual. And call each other, and I'll just keep it really short, but here's how it works. The Soto people look at the Rinzai and say, you're trying to wait for awakening, Taigo, right? And you're Hashigo, step by step, like working, you know, toward awakening, right? So that's your gradual. And we, the Soto, they say, believe in the innate Buddha nature. We're already awakened, right? We're already Buddha. So what's really sudden is already, right? So how do you get to FIU? So someone's wandering around lost on the campus. How do you get, you say, well, you're already there. Oh, that was fast. So that's, you know, William's meaning is one, like all at once, but already. That's the fundamental meaning of sudden. Okay? So the Soto people say, we're already Buddhas, we just practice to, you know, manifest our Buddhahood. You know, and then on the other side, the Rinzai people say, you know, you say you're already Buddhas, you have no awakening at all. That's what, you know, and you just sort of gradually sit there and you know, stew in zazen, right? So it's really a stupid argument, actually. It's a stupid argument, but it's there in Japan. You know, maybe when you first start hearing it, you know, like they start calling each other names. So they call them Buji Zen. Buji Zen means, you know, Zen with no sort of purpose, no accomplishment. That's what the Rinzai people call Soto.
Yeah, so that's from Minzan and Hakumi's son.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, they're getting that from people like Dakwei. So it's there in Song as well.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I think that, you know, the Kana Zen versus silent illumination Zen is kind of recreation of sudden
Right.
versus
But
gradual.
then,
Right. That's the way I would interpret it, yeah. But I think it's exactly the terms that you explained.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's taken for granted that sudden is better, but they keep debating it.
so who's really sudden?
Who's really?
What does sudden mean?
I'm more sudden than you are.
Oh, suddenly I understand.
But wait, we want to thank the Dean's office wants to thank you guys. But great, and I'm glad you stuck with us. Let's go to, Mitch had his hand up first, I think, and then, yeah.
Thank you very much, all of you. Really, one of the reasons I came today was to put together the names and the faces, the names that I had seen over the years but never met other than Shaka-san and Steve. And I gained a lot today. An additional reason that was very strong was the title. There was something there about bringing them down to earth that was real. I'm a street guy. I grew up in Roxbury, Mass. Okay, it was just attractive. And Shohaku-san, when you made that flip, it was nice. It was comfortable. It was like settling. And then now I said, gee, we got 5 translators, and there's a story, it may or may not be true, about Coleman Barks, the Rumi translator, being asked, do you love Rumi? And Coleman responded, no. Well, you would have expected this, you know. The people were surprised. He says, no, I love what Rumi loved. So I'm asking you, down to earth, no challenge, because you could say nothing, we give each other a hug. What is it that you love that you think Dogen loved, and that really mirrors in you? Regards from my teacher, Peter Matheson. Okay.
No, I think it's a great question, and you know, I could answer all kinds of different ways at different times, but well, Griff's very well stated the diversity of what sudden means. But there's a word that comes to me, wholeness, the sense of that I get from Zazen and from reading Dogen, sometimes at least, a lot of Dogen, that there's, suddenly it's okay. And that sense of, that possibility of wholeness in spite of everything, and all the troubles in the world and so forth, is something that brings me back to Zazen and brings me back to Dogen. So that's one response.
You know, Dogen really was dedicated to the Buddha Dharma, the teachings of Buddha, and he thought it was, a way to salvation, a way that it would help people. And so I identify with that. I believe that. And also, he hated bullshitters. Really did. You know, he hated phonies, and he called them out. So some of his nastiest language in Shobogenzo is, about Chinese Chan masters and things from phonies. And people who are posturing, and they have no clue. Yeah, so, actually I identify with that.
Any others in there? Stevie?
Yeah, well, I think, you and I had talked about this once a few years ago, I think. One passage I really like is in a fast called the Shobogenzo, Shoko Jiso, where he attacks some of the BSers that he doesn't like, but he's also praising his mentor Ru Jing. And what was it about Ru Jing? A lot of people say that Dogen's mentor, it probably wasn't all that great in himself, but it's primarily known because he as Dogen's teacher. And if you go to those temples in China and the Chinese Ministry of Religion in that province that is kind of pushing tourism to those temples because they know that a lot of Japanese will go there, and they'll kind of admit that, hey, this is known because of Dogen's influence. But here's my point. When he describes in that chapter what he likes about Ru Jing, he would say that despite all the formality that goes on and all the monastic rules and regulations that go on in the temple, he admired Ru Jing for sticking with those and not breaking the rules, which some of the BSers would do. Ru Jing would have the drum pounded in the middle of the night, would awaken the monks, bring them into his hall for a special question and answer session. And it was that kind of spontaneity. It really brings it makes it such a living kind of feeling, I think, that you get from Dogen. Because he was an outsider to China, and because he was struggling in Japan, I think even though most of his writings are on a more abstract, even if the message is concrete and realistic, but it's still kind of abstract writings, it really brings to life the immediacy of the experience. I think that's what